All right, we're about to walk a tightrope stretched between performance art, artificial intelligence, and a massive legal battle for the future. This is the story of a hidden theory, and by the end of this, I think it might just change how you think about your own mind. So, our whole story kicks off with this line from the journal of a performance artist named Eveline Cote. It's this poetic, kind of dangerous entry point into a theory that's operating just under the surface of our world. And you gotta understand, this isn't just about art, it's not just about code. We are about to unpack a hidden but really powerful framework. One that connects a really strange performance in a French garden, the training of an advanced AI, and a legal fight that could totally reshape the future of technology. Okay, so let's start here. The Poison Gardens of Versailles. This is where things get really interesting because this is where a super complex theory is first made physical. It's literally performed into existence. I want you to really picture this scene. You've got Eveline Cote walking a 32-foot tightrope. The dress she's wearing? It's not just a dress. Its pattern is designed to create optical interference. And below her, the garden isn't arranged by flower type. It's arranged by how long it takes for each plant's poison to kill you. And the whole time, from up there on the wire, she's delivering a monologue, making the whole thing, the wire, the dress, the garden, all part of this one big, elaborate delivery system. And this right here, this is the core idea she's getting at. She argues that the old saying, the dose makes the poison, is totally wrong. She says it's not the substance itself, but the interface, that point of contact between what you want and the thing you're trying to get. That's what's truly lethal. So you might be thinking, what in the world does any of this, fashion, poison, a tightrope walk, what does it have to do with the hard science of the brain? Well, it turns out that whole performance at Versailles, it wasn't just some abstract show. It was a lecture. It was a physical demonstration of a theory called recursive vector interference, or RVI for short. So what is RVI? At its heart, it's a theory all about collision. I want you to imagine two different radio signals crossing paths. Now, instead of just creating static, their interference pattern actually creates a brand new third signal right inside your brain. A new thought, a new feeling, maybe a whole new reality. And this is where you can really see the two sides of this theory. On one hand, you've got the poetic, almost spiritual definition from Eveline Cotier's performance. The tightrope, the drug, the art. These are all just ways to stage this collision. But on the other hand, you have the technical definition. It's all about how competing lines of reasoning inside a system, like an AI, interfere with each other until they eventually settle into one stable answer. Okay, so we've got this theory that comes from performance art. But how does that jump from art to actual technology? Well, that's where a San Francisco street poet comes into the story. Meet Zach Houston. This guy would write poems for strangers on a typewriter for just a few bucks. But here's the crazy part. According to Eveline, his work, his incredible ability to just synthesize ideas on the fly, was basically an accidental form of cognitive science. His archive of 10,000 poems was scanned, and it was fed into a machine. He became its teacher. And that machine? It was building this framework called CTMS. The whole point of CTMS was to fight against the black box problem in AI. You know, the fact that we often have no idea why an AI gives us a certain answer. CTMS was designed as a forced interpretability layer, basically trying to make the machine's thinking traceable, understandable, all using the patterns from a poet's mind. So you take this really complex theory, and it actually boils down to this super elegant three-step process. First, the AI generates what's called a thought tree of all the possible reasoning paths. Then, it explores those paths. And finally, it flattens them all down into a single traceable output. It turns poetry into a predictable process. And this is the moment, right? This is where this whole framework moves from poetry and code and lands right in the middle of the legal world, becoming a weapon in a fight over the future of AI. To get what's happening here, you need to know about the San Francisco Art Institute, or SFAI. It was this hub for public research into networked art. But when it collapsed financially, all of its publicly funded ideas were just kind of absorbed by private for-profit labs. And now, that collapse is being used as a legal precedent to challenge the corporate structure of a tech giant like OpenAI. And this is the heart of their argument. The claim is that this current model, where charitable assets basically become free R&D for private capital, that wasn't inevitable. It's what they call a stewardship failure, a failure to protect things that were created for the public good. The lawsuit is arguing that this pattern, which we saw with SFAI, cannot be allowed to happen again on a global scale. But just when you think you've got it all figured out, a critical voice emerges from inside the project itself, raising a really crucial warning about the system they've built. The very framework we've just spent all this time learning about is now being questioned. Is it really a tool for clarity, or is it its own kind of prison? So here's the first warning. It's this deep concern that the RVI theory is becoming too totalizing. It explains so much that it starts to explain everything. And it becomes this closed loop where every new idea just reinforces the system that's already there. There's no way out. And then there's the second warning, and it's all about speed. The rate at which this system is making connections across art, law, tech, poetry is getting faster and faster. And that velocity, the sheer speed of thought, is itself a huge red flag. It's a sign that maybe, just maybe, it's time to slow down before that loop closes for good. Which, of course, leaves us with one last kind of unavoidable question. We started with this idea that consciousness itself is just an interference pattern, a collision of signals. Well, if that's true, then you have to ask yourself, what signals, what loops, what outside forces are colliding inside your nervous system right now? What interference pattern are you?